That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
But there's something else that what will change if you shift the perspective from the driver to the passenger, and that is the whole realm of what I call body language. Communication between cars in traffic,
Yeah.
because a car is not a single. Because you are inside the car, you tend to see the car as a kind of individual contraption, whereas in fact you are part of a swarm or a flow or whatever.
So the
and
question,
you need to communicate with others in not only in sound by whooping, but also by making signs, and also because the car driver is a cyborg, by expressing what you mean in the behavior of the car itself.
So
and that's what I call body language.
What you demand, I'm not happy with this term, but what you demand is a sort of description how the swarm is organizing itself.
Yes.
And that can be also, so you are talking about communication, but communication can also something which does not look like communication. For example, if you slow down when another person will go left across your path, then this is a sort of communication that you allow him.
Yeah, but that is what I mean by body language.
But I would accept this only if you mean with body also the car body.
Yes,
yeah.
that's
so you
the
have
fun.
That's the if you intend it as a pun.
Double entendre.
Yeah. So communication history.
Not the human body, but the car human body.
Yeah. And the driver is a cyborg, of course. Yeah. But it's something about communication, and communication is always split in voluntary communication and involuntary. Even if you see a car coming, driving in front of you, you identify the car, and then you you attribute them special attributes.
Yeah.
For example, if SUV drives in front of you, you see it a different way from a lorry.
Sure.
So from a lorry you expect certain speeds, for example. If you see a Porsche in front of you, just the contrary.
Yeah.
So everything in the road is communication, even if you don't do it voluntarily. And to describe this, and this is a methodological problem in my opinion, if you do this, you have to integrate a lot of... Look at this situation, for example. Silke is slowing down to allow him this, but she does not signal it.
No.
So by the simple process
but
of...
he or she didn't understand it directly.
She didn't understand it firstly.
Yeah,
but
because what she was doing was not normal.
No.
She should have driven on.
But probably the driver of this car identified the Tesla and expected something different from so we are talking also about expectations, about attributions, and how do you do this in mobility history? I do have my difficulties with this. My difficulty would be identify the question.
Well, for me the question is quite simple, but probably it's different from your question. My question is why the car? So, I mean, every rational historian or observer would have said in 1918 or 1920, okay, this was the car, we don't need it, it's too dangerous, let's go back to the tramway or more collective forms.
No, I don't agree.
And the idea of making it a new road system for this contraption is totally absurd. Let's stop it. But that did not happen. And the question is why?
I would be a bit more cautious. You have immediately after 1918 in every European country a discussion about the people's car. In France, in Britain, in Germany as well, with a lot of discourses about.
My point, Kurt, is that is argued from the perspective of the car. But at the same time, in the 1920s in the US, like Peter Norton has shown that was that a massive resistance against the car happened.
Yeah, a bit later than in Europe. In Europe,
No, but my point is that is the car industry organized manifestations about the safety of the car in the streets of the cities. Peter Norton has that revealed. For me, that was a revelation.
Yeah. Especially
in the
cities.
1920s, people were fed up with the car in America, and I'm not saying that they wanted to get rid of it, but they were really fed up. And and I think that is underestimated in the history of the car, that there was a movement in the 1920s, let's stop this blödsinn, this insanity.
But I still think that this is marginal. I think the mainstream is still going in a different direction, at least in Europe. The main direction in Europe would be, well, the car is problematic. It's also problematic in economic ways. It draws off resources which the state or the society as a whole could be using in a better way. Of course, there was a lot of opposition, not just the bottom-up opposition of pedestrians, but also by the economics, even by the military. But there was a deep strain of desire for cars, I think.
No, I don't believe that. I think that what if you don't describe the history of the car from the perspective of the car, you have to zoom into, for instance, what is called the coordination debate, the struggle between railways and roads, and that was a very fierce struggle, which was only solved maybe at the end of the 1930s, when it was clear that the car had won, so to speak.
Yeah, I delved a little bit about this, about in the economic way. The problem was not only that there was a sort of competition situation between the car and the railways, but also between the railways and the airplane. And the discussion about what is better, what is faster, and what is more viable for the economy. The problem for example, of airplanes in the 1920s was they are unreliable, they rely on the weather, and they are slower than fast trains. But in spite of this, even small towns in Germany wanted their flying fields, their airports. So I think it's more a cultural matter than a matter from seen from the perspective of the users.
I'm not sure, but because from the perspective of the users, which is for me decisive, is that it was the middle class that was the champion of the car.
Yeah,
and all the other classes were the lower class were preferring the trains and bicycle or whatever.
Yeah, in the case of Germany, the lower classes, the Arbeiterklasse, and for the extreme left and the extreme right preferred quite an interesting mobility machine, the lorry with seats, or even without seats. I made a sort of a pictorial history of troops of political active men in the 1920s,
the putsch,
but also the advertising for parties, especially advertising generally, even for products.
But
I missed the cultural history of the lorry as a transport means for persons.
But that's probably a specifically German part of global history.
Not only, you have this in Poland, East Europe. Europe is very not even stronger on that.
But I'm thinking that now that we are, what is it? I don't say at the end of the history of the car, because many people think that the next history will be the history of the bicycle or something like that. But at this moment in time, I think that we should recognize, as historians of mobility, that the perspective of the car is not the good perspective for a history of mobility in general. That would be my final conclusion after what is it, 25 years of doing mobility history. Because you privilege this kind of the road, you privilege the driver position, you privilege the middle class position, and in the world, the majority of people walks.
Yeah.
I mean, the car is a minority still.
Walks and carries.
And carries, but it's a pedestrian.
And I agree, but I would be a little bit more conservative. I would say car is still a matter of interpretation, because it's still in the mind of people. People are still, even in India, even in the places where I have been, even if you don't have a car for yourself, you are interested in that. I observed in India, for example, I observed in India lower class people, workers, badly paid workers, buying buying a journal, Indian Auto, where they could look at cars, where they could dream with cars. So cars, if they are not long on the road, which I don't believe at all, I think they will. The car culture will still grow in the next 20 years.
Yes, I think that's true.
Even if it is not, even if you're right, then probably it's still in the mind of people, and they will.
Yeah, but if you look at Karlsruhe, I have my car here, and every time I say to the students and to the colleagues, I want to go into the town, and then they say, no, don't go into the town. You can't use the car in the town, and that is becoming a kind of general picture. The car is outlawed. In a way.
You're right, it is outlawed, but this is not a matter of users, it's a matter of politics. In unregulated cities like in Malaysia or in New Delhi, of course people go into the town, and they will do it
but
even
not
if
by
they
car, not necessarily
by
car.
They do it even if they are standing in a traffic jam for hours. They go with the car. But
my point is in fact, well, that's of course a bit provocative, but that the electric car is a kind of how should I say, misleading idea that the car as such has a future.
It's a sort of Rückzugsgefecht. It's
it's a kind of
defensive position of the car.
It's a flight forward.
Yeah.
You know that ein Flucht voraus.
It looks progressive, but it's
but it's the end of the road.
I would agree with this.
And this kind of Tesla is the very epitome of that. If they would have built, delivery vehicles electric, that would have been a kind of future.
But it would not be
of a different form of urbanism and so on.
But it would not be sexy. They would not be sold like that, and the shares would cost much less. So I think it's they cash on dreams. They cash on dreams of a better and mobility, which it is not.
But is that also true for the youth? Because the youth has other dreams in gaming. They can shoot each other with cars. What is it? Theft auto.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Theft auto, but also the Fast and the Furious, Mad Max, Transformers.
Yeah.
You can have your fun there.
But a friend of my son has a BMW styled after the paragons in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
So he took the picture of Grand Theft Auto and styled his auto like that. Yeah. So
he wants to have the real thing.
I know. Yeah, I know. There are two theories.